What if you just got comfortable with knowing that you're never going to be done knowing? You're never going to be done learning and growing and navigating and changing. That can be difficult sometimes because you can be like, what's the destination? Where am I going? And this is nothing new. We've talked about this of being in love with the journey and not just the destination. But when you realize that something ends or you hit a point where something's changing, that can be hard because you can be looking at it and you can be like, okay, am I excited for this change or am I mourning the change and the loss? One of my mentors, Lindsay, talks about how when you level up, you mourn who you used to be. You mourn the version of you that you once were because some parts of that you maybe loved. And now you're going into a new part of yourself that you don't know and the other people around you don't know. And that can be hard. That can be challenging. But what if you allowed yourself to just know that you are always changing? You are always evolving. I was just talking to someone the other day who is stepping into a new beginning, not 100% by their choice, changing career paths that they have been in the same career for over 10 years and at the same place of business for 10 years. Now, that is a big shift to be able to change your career and your place of business after 10 years can bring up a lot of questions of identity and where do you want to go? Now, there's also this beauty in it of like, the world is your oyster and you can achieve and accomplish anything that you want, but it can still be really challenging and it can be really difficult. And I think for myself, I've just allowed myself to be more and more comfortable with the idea that I have no idea what my future it holds or entails. And, we're often asked as kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? Then you go through high school. What are you going to do for college? What career do you want to do? And while it's not really expected at this point that you stay in the same job forever, there is this kind of shift in culture and identity from society when you decide you're just going to keep changing and shift who you are. But if you really like pull back what's normal and you think about you are not probably meant to do the same thing for your whole life. Like that's kind of crazy when you think about it, right? The average life expectancy is somewhere between 65 and 90, and that's a big, opening there. But to be able to say, okay, for 65 plus years, you're supposed to kind of do the same thing. That's crazy, right? When you think about it. And allowing yourself to become this ever evolving human being that's trying on new things for size and allowing yourself to be comfortable in just what's next, what's new. This isn't forever. And what a crazy mindset if we went into everything knowing it wasn't forever. It wasn't what we were supposed to do forever. And there might be some things that are forever, right? Like if you're listening to this podcast, you probably resonate with the term mom in some form, in some way. And so that title in many ways is a forever title. Now, what that looks like, though, how you live out that title, the way that you show up as a mom or a caregiver or support person may change. You may be challenged in what that title looks like in all sorts of different ways. But if you get comfortable with knowing that your title as mom or parent is never going to look the same forever, because we don't expect that. We expect being a mom of a newborn to be different than a mom of a middle schooler and then of an adult. We expect that to change and look different. But why do we not expect that in other areas of our life? Why do we not look at the other titles that we wear and expect things to change so significantly as being a toddler of a newborn to an adult? We expect there to be transitions and changes. But if you could just get really comfortable with knowing, okay, every other part of my life is going to look so different as I change, just as being a parent to a newborn to an adult looks like, then you can allow yourself to be in this more playful energy and excitement of, I don't know what's going to happen next. And I don't know what's next for me, but I'm comfortable in figuring it out. And maybe that means you're in a place of work for 10 years and then you shift. Maybe that means you're in the same place of work for longer than that, but what are you doing outside of that? Because I just don't believe that everything in your life can stay status quo for your entire lifetime. So if you're in a place of your life currently that hasn't been switched up lately, should you? Should you switch it up? If you're feeling this stagnant energy, how can you change it up? And that doesn't mean just quitting your job and finding a new one, but what can you switch up? What can you change up so that you have the opportunity to see this next level of whatever it is for you? And how can you find this peace in things never being the same? Because, like we said, that can be also hard if you're like, but when do I get to slow down? When do I get to settle? When do I get to know what's next? When do I have to always, why do I always have to be in the unknown? Well, what if that's just what it's meant to be for this time, this season, or forever? Because I think that, there's this quote that the only known is the unknown, right? That there's always going to be change, there's always going to be challenge. And so if you lean into that more and you allow that as a part of your life, then it doesn't trip you up as much. And when things go sideways or unexpected, then you can say, okay, this is one of those things again. How am I going to navigate it? And how much excitement and joy can come from you just saying, I don't know what's next. I don't know what's next for me. I don't know what's next for this season. I don't know what's next for my life. I don't know where I'm going to be in 10 years. I think there can be so much peace to that, so much enjoyment and excitement. So I want you to just take a minute and think about that. If you're not driving, maybe close your eyes. Or if you're like me and you listen to podcasts while you're folding laundry or doing the dishes, maybe take a break. And just close your eyes for a minute and think about, where were you 10 years ago? 10 years ago. And is everything that's in your life currently something you expected 10 years ago? What's something that isn't expected, positive or negative? What's something that you didn't know was going to happen? And then I want you to picture yourself about 10 years from now. What do you think is going to be your life 10 years from now? That's always harder to vision, right? It's a harder vision to create. It's a harder reality to identify because we don't know. What are the things that you're hoping for? What are the things that you don't want to have be a reality 10 years from now? So often we work towards positive goals, the things that we want to achieve, but maybe sometimes you should be working towards the things you don't want. Where do you not want to be in 10 years? And how can you now, right now, be okay with not exactly knowing what that picture looks like? How can you get comfortable with just pursuing what comes to you in this season, in this time, not knowing how it's going to play out, not knowing what is next for you? What if you just got really comfortable with the unknown and just focused on what you could do today? And how proud of yourself are you for that person 10 years ago? Did that person know what was going to be happening today? Not all of it. I almost can guarantee you. So what does that look like for you now? Knowing what you know now that you didn't know 10 years ago, knowing that you won't know 10 years, you won't know now what you will know in 10 years. What decisions are you going to make? What things are you going to do? How are you going to just love the unknown process? I can't wait to hear what that is for you.